MPI Paranormal Radio. The truth is to be found. An internet radio show dedicated to the open discussion of different paranormal topics by military paranormal investigations. Our aspiration is to research and discover the possibilities of scientific reasons to a field of study which many do not believe to be supported by facts. Military Paranormal Investigations is not affiliated to any branch of the military. We are a science-based paranormal research organization of active duty and retired military members, dependents, and or friends located out of Wichita Falls, Texas. Recorded or live, broadcasting with shoutcasts on multiple websites to get the maximum reach. Now, here are your hosts, members of the MPI team.
Good evening and welcome to Military Paranormal Radio. I'm Mike.
And I'm Rob.
And I'm Paul.
And I just want to tell you, get your headphones ready and get ready for tonight's show. We've got a pretty good episode for you tonight. We're going to play you some EVPs a little later on. That's the need for the headphones. It's a little easier to hear with that. But just to kind of tell you what we've got going tonight, we're going to start off with, basically this is what we do at our paranormal conferences. We're going to do a Paranormal 101. And I think we're going to get started first with a little bit of terminology as far as the paranormal terminology goes and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, Mike, I think before we do that, we need to stress that we are not affiliated to any branch of the military. We're strictly military paranormal only. We were military members, retired military members, and dependents. So just want to stress that out there.
Sounds good, Rob. I'll tell you. Also, I want to tell our listeners out there that we have our podcast going out right now on Podbean. You can get us you can search us under Military Paranormal Investigations or Military Paranormal. You can go, if you like us on Facebook, you can find a link to everything there. You can also reach us at radio show at militaryparanormal.com.
And don't forget about militaryparanormal.com itself, our main website out there. We also got our forum up and going. It's not completely up. We're still making the boards together, but we got it up and going. That's really good. And, of course, always Facebook, Military Paranormal, all one word. And then we also got our Twitter account back up and running, believe it or not. I actually went on there just to see if I can remember to log in because we haven't used it in like 4 years. And in those 4 years, since we've been on there, we actually have gotten 404 followers on that thing.
With no activity. So hopefully our subscribers on there is going to pick that up. You can also find us on YouTube, and you can catch it on there. Right now, we don't have our video going. We're still dealing with some technical issues on that. We're going to have these podcasts also videoed for you guys so you can actually kind of see what we look like and see what's going on. We'll maybe have some pictures for you and stuff like that. But if you'll subscribe to us there, I put a little plug in there for ourselves. But if you can subscribe on there, we'll be able to have our own YouTube channel. Right now, you can find us on there if you search under Military Paranormal. Word, that's what we were under right now. Also, I've been uploading them to iTunes Store, so you can find us on there if you search for Military Paranormal Investigations. But again, you can find that also if you go and like us on our Facebook page. You'll be able to find all the links on there.
Yeah, definitely. One good thing about being liked on our own sites is we can get a lot more followers, because I know our first radio show that we did last week, we only did for maybe about 35 minutes. So we're going to try and expand and go a little bit further than that and do maybe an hour and 10 minutes, something like that.
There you go. And, we did have a couple of suggestions from some of our listeners. We're going to start trying to bring that to you. Tonight we brought the EVPs so you can kind of hear some of the things we found at some of our investigations. And I think it's gonna turn out to be really good. I'm really excited with the results of our first radio show, and I think it's gonna turn out to be real well.
I totally agree. And we have Paul now. He was one of our junior members. I think you started off on what?
I was 16.
16. So
I was the first junior member that I remember. There was me, and I think there was one other who's no longer with us.
No, I believe it was Kyle.
Yeah.
Kyle.
Jeff's son. Kyle. Jeff's son. Yeah, he's actually joined the Marines and did his 4 years, and I think he's going to be coming home now. So
hopefully we'll pick him back up.
Exactly. It'd be nice to get him back in the fold, too, with MPI.
Paul's never really been a junior member, though. He's always been like 6'12". So.
Exactly.
going to start tonight's show off just to kind of give you an overview of what we're doing. We're going to give you a little bit of common terms with the paranormal, the types of hauntings that are out there, just to let you know how they're kind of broken out into what classifications and that sort of thing.
And we're also going to do the EVPs. Like you were talking about earlier, we actually have a couple of examples that we've captured, and then the lady that actually everyone uses her EVP classification, Sarah Estep. We have two from her website that we're going to play for you, so you can see the difference between a Class A and a Class B, I believe, is the ones that we found for her.
Well, I'm really excited, Rob. I'll tell you, last week we really enjoyed the show. We've been trying to do this for such a long time, and I think that we just need to get started and get our listeners some information out there.
Exactly. So, with that, like you were saying, let's do some of the paranormal 101s. I think we need to do the terms like we talked about first.
This way, whenever you're listening to us, if we say something, and there's a lot of different meanings out there. These are some of the way, this is kind of the general industry standard, if you will. But this is maybe some of the definitions on how they're described, so you guys can kind of understand what we go by.
Yeah, we're not going to hit all the terms that are out there on different paranormal websites. We're only going to do a couple of them. That way we can hit just a few common ones that just about everyone uses.
Anomaly, a regular, unusual event that does not follow a standard rule of law, and it cannot be explained by current accepted scientific theories. Basically, the unusual, the paranormal. Mm-hmm. If we ever say anomaly, I think everybody kind of knows what that means, but that means that we've had something unusual something
that happened out there that we can't explain. It's an anomaly. Another good one is apparition. You know all about that one, don't you,
Oh,
Mike?
yeah. I want to tell that story, and I think whenever we can get Jeff to finally get rid of the giggles and come on here with us, I think we'll tell that story, because Jeff and I actually got to witness a very rare occasion of a full body apparition. But that's basically, and the energy materializes and it's a physical body, even though there's nothing there. So it's actually, you see a ghost in full form.
Exactly, it's to where you can actually see through the figure as well. We have an artifact. We use artifact quite a bit because if we have something that's connected to it, it's basically a term used to describe the slight noises or residual images produced by the internal mechanisms of equipment, which could be misinterpreted as paranormal sounds or images. So you have equipment out there when you're dealing with the paranormal investigations and everything. So you're going to have those sounds, and a lot of times people think that it's actually something paranormal when it's actually something mechanical. So it's called an artifact with that one.
Let's see where we're at on our list here. Automatic writing. Basically, it's information from disembodied spirits. And basically, a message that comes across through an individual.
It's used, they say, through mediums. Granted, we don't have mediums in ours because we try and go completely scientific. Yes, people believe there are mediums out there, and they use their own gifts, if you would, to talk back and forth with the dead, but we don't have that. We can't prove there's any scientific proof behind that, so we try and stay away from that.
Not saying that we don't believe in any of that, but
Correct.
There's just, whenever we do our things, we'll talk about in a little bit the control and that sort of thing, to where we can't control the environment with a psychic or a medium or some of those sorts of
Correct.
things. We can't use that. Case study, that's basically the in-depth investigation of an individual subject. So when we talk about we had a case study, it's basically the investigation itself.
Right. And then within that case study, we're going to have contact sessions. It's periods of time which paranormal investigators attempt to establish communication with an entity. Some people call it EVP sessions, like we do. If you hear us and we're going through talking about our different types of investigation, we're talking about an EVP session. It's a contact session.
There you go. Control. This is one of our big things, and I talked about it in our first show. One of the ways we kind of run our investigations like a military operation, but with that, so we can establish the control of the environment with where we're working. We may have people set up to make sure there's no factors that are, people walking by, noises that go around the investigation area. So that way, if something comes up on our EVP session, we can say, hey, there was a bird flying by that screeched outside a window at the time that happened. So control is basically a way to ensure that the experiment is conducted in a standard fashion, so that the results will be not influenced by any factors that are not paranormal.
Right, because you got to have that control group out there, which is another term that's out there. Now, we don't use control group out there. We use each one that we go out. We have different teams. We have an Alpha team, a Bravo team, and a Charlie team normally, and that's our control group. It's a group of outside subjects whose performance or abilities are compared with experimental subjects. So we'll have a control group go out there and try and recreate that. If someone claims they have paranormal activity, we'll try and go and recreate that for them. That way it's completely controlled.
And then we get into demons. I think everybody kind of knows what a demon goes into. And we don't typically deal with anything to do with demons or malevolent spirits or any of that sort of stuff.
Right.
If we do an investigation and we feel that some of that things may be present, then we're going to refer that to someone that's an expert in that field.
Exactly. And the one thing that I like to not actually harp on, but there's a lot of people out there that's claiming to be demonologists. All right. Yeah, you know terms and you've studied demonology, but a true demonology, in my own, is going to be someone that actually has been trained in that, such as the Catholic Church.
Correct.
The ones that can do exorcisms and stuff like that, they've been ordained to do that. A demonologist, they've just studied up on it and everything. So if you're dealing with something that's a demon, I would recommend getting with a true demonologist, someone with the Catholic Church.
We have a collective apparition, which is where more than one person may see the same apparition. And again, we'll have this maybe in a future investigation.
Yeah, that would be the one with you and Jeff.
With me and Jeff, that's
exactly.
Correct. A crisis apparition, that's also that's when someone sees an entity when they're seriously ill, seriously injured, or at the point of death. A lot of times that would be linked to a guardian angel. People, they've been in a bad car crash or something like that, and they may see their guardian angel. They may see a loved one, that may have already passed or something like that.
Dematerialization. You should know about that one again.
Oh, yeah. Materialization and dematerialization. Basically, materialization is when the entity forms in front of you. It uses the energy around and is able to materialize, and then dematerialization is when it is going to go away. In the case of Jeff and I, it kind of dematerialized into a big mist, which we also caught on other media, our cameras and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Now, we have what's called the EVP. We already talked about EVP out there, where everyone knows it's electromagnetic voice phenomenal. Well, you have direct VVP, which is an audible voice that is spoken directly to someone to where you can hear it without having any type of digital audio. You hear it with your ears. Like you're sitting on the couch all by yourself alone, and you hear your name called, but there's no one else there but you.
What's really good about that is when you catch it on the EVP and people have heard it
exactly
during their investigations. Dowsing rods, we don't typically use dowsing rods, although I do think that there's probably something to do with dowsing rods. Again, it's one of those scientific factors that we can't control or we don't have any scientific data to prove that that's actually what's going on. But basically, metal rods or wooden rods to locate water, lost objects. Now, I know a lot of old-timers, they will swear that they can locate a well.
Oh, yeah.
But, with dowsing rods. And I've seen people that's done that, and it's true. So there's obviously something behind it. But, again, we don't have any scientific evidence that we can try to...
And I know in some of the history around Berkman that I know they were actually using dowsing rods to find some of the oil out here. And guess what? They found it.
There you go. Earthbound. We have basically a ghost or a spirit that was unable to cross over and is now stuck on the earth side of
stuck in limbo, if you would.
That's
what most people know about.
The electromagnetic field and electromagnetic field detector, they kind of go hand in hand. Basically, energy fields surround everything. The Earth's gravity and the Earth's magnetic field can all affect what you have on an investigation. But everything's going to have some sort of electromagnetic field. And then we have
You're going to have both natural and man-made, like
correct.
you were talking about.
You can get a lot. And in this subject for a future show, but you can power connections inside a house, refrigerators, appliances that run fluorescent lights are a thing that puts out huge amounts of EMF. Most things nowadays, the newer stuff is shielded, but some of the older stuff can really influence an investigation and will give you false readings on your electromagnetic field detector.
Yes, it will.
Basically is a device that picks up the electromagnetic fields in an area, which everybody's seen the ghost shows, and you have a K2, and that's basically a simple form of an electromagnetic field detector.
Exactly. K2 meter, yeah. And then you're going to have elementals. It's a term commonly referred to natural spirits, kind of like we were talking about the earthbound spirits, the ones that are in limbo. So it's the same thing up there, just like an entity. We were talking about an entity earlier, to where it's anything that has a separate or distinct existence, but not necessarily material in nature, kind of like you were talking about, where you could see it, but it was seen through, kind of like a misty figure, if you would.
ESP, extrasensory perception. Again, that's kind of another area that we don't really delve into a whole lot, but basically communication or perception of means by other than physical senses. And some of it might be a gut feeling or some of those sorts of things. And sometimes we do use a little of that. We can say, sometimes we're on investigation, we're like, feel like something really weird's going on here, but then we try to break it out into our scientific methods to figure out what's going on.
Exactly. And exorcism. We were talking about exorcisms earlier when we were talking about demons, and having the Catholic Church do this. It's the banishment of an entity or entities, spirits, ghosts, or demons that are thought to possess or haunt a location or even a human being, and it can even haunt an animal as well, I've been told.
The thing I want to caution our listeners on is this isn't something that you want to attempt yourself or anything. If you feel like you have something going on that requires exorcism or something like that, you need to contact professionals. You can contact us. We can actually try to point you in the right direction. But there are professionals out there that can assist you in that area.
Yeah. Another one, false awakenings is another term. You know a lot more about that one.
Basically, it is also referred to as sleep paralysis. Basically, you believe you're awake, but you're actually dreaming, or you wake up and you can't move.
Right.
So you feel like you are
being held down.
You're being held down. So that's actually a common thing that you get sometimes in paranormal investigation requests. Is I've had this sort of thing happening. And there may be a paranormal thing to that. A lot of times it's usually some sort of, medical issue or some sort of physiological effect that's causing that. Frank's box.
Now, that's a little device that we actually witnessed firsthand in our first paranormal conference here in Wichita Falls. We actually had someone come in and work with the Frank's box, and it's interesting because it's so controversial. You really don't know if it's actually working or not. I've seen it to where it does work and where it doesn't, and basically it's just, some believe that it allows real-time communication with entities. It works by continuously scanning AM and FM radio frequencies from which broadcast syllables or words are used an entity to speak, aka like the ghost box. The Ovulus works the same way, I'm pretty sure, but it's a pretty interesting tool. We've used an Ovulus recently on one of the investigations.
We also used we use an AM radio like a Frank's box.
Exactly. We've got it from Radio Shack, if I believe, and we took out the scanner to where it just continually scans. And we have some interesting results with that one. Not really. I guess you could say I'm kind of like on the fence on that one.
There you go. The same thing with the Ovulus. It's kind of the same way, but it uses an input of the electromagnetic fields to generate a word based off of that power level that comes into it. And I'm with you. I don't know where it really stands yet. I'm kind of on the fence with that too. We have a ghost. I think everybody knows what a
ghost is.
And the thing that I like to tell people is we're not ghost hunters.
No, not at all. When people say, "Oh, you're like the ghost hunters, Ghostbusters," like, no, we're paranormal investigators. We investigate the paranormal. We don't actually go out there and hunt for ghosts. We're not the ones that go jumping across fences and trying to find stuff. We're actually trying to debunk the claims of paranormal activity if anyone claims they haven't. And that's why I wouldn't say, "Oh, you're going ghost hunting." No, we're not going ghost hunting. Sorry, MPI does not ghost hunt. Sorry about that one.
Hallucinations. The thing that I like to stress to people is, everybody commonly associates hallucinations with drugs and that sort of thing.
Right.
But a lot of people don't realize that there are a lot of factors that can cause hallucinations, which sometimes can be why people have reported paranormal activity to us. High EMF readings.
Yes.
You have a standard of exposure to electromagnetic frequency, and whenever that gets too high, it can cause interference with your own electromagnetic frequencies in your brain, and then that can cause hallucinations. There's also things such as mold. There can be chemicals and things in a house that can, or a structure, or anywhere else for that matter, that can cause hallucinations.
Right. One of our earlier cases when we first started MPI was dealing with someone that they thought had a demonic case, but in reality it turned out that the room itself had 2 air conditioner units on the outside of it, and the air conditioner units were running, dripping off the water underneath the house, underneath this bedroom. And when we went underneath the house and looked, there was nothing but surface mold all under this house, right under there. So it was going up in this kid's room, and we went in there and told them how to get rid of the surface mold and stuff, and talked to them about 6 months after that, cleaning up the house, and they said the kid didn't have any more hallucinations anymore. He was doing really well.
They also had, they had the 2 air conditioner units, and they had the power supply to the house come in on a third wall of his bedroom. So basically, the kid lived in a fear cage, which that's another term. That's basically, you have all these factors that are outside the control group that are causing physiological effects.
Exactly. And I would like to talk about the physiological aspects, but not in this show, but in a future show. I'm looking forward to being able to do more about them. So we'll talk more about those later on. And then we're going to have, Mike was talking about, EMF gauge meters. The instrument for measuring the magnitude and direction of a magnet field, typical used by paranormal research. Sorry if I'm laughing too much, but there's this big fly in here that is just keep buzzing us.
There's like 3 of them, and they're the size of nickels. They're unbelievably large. But yeah, a magnetometer, an EMF, a EMF detector, a Gauss meter, they're all the same thing, and they register electromagnetic fields. The
materialization that you were talking about.
There you go. Materialization is basically the same thing, where energy is materialized into from something, basically from thin air into something. A medium, we talked about that earlier, medium, a clairvoyant. There's a lot of different terminology for it, but again, we don't typically use that in anything that we do. Not saying we haven't worked with them or we don't believe in some of that, we just don't use it for our control factors. A mist, we talk about mist, and
everyone should know what a mist is. It's basically just a mist forming out of white thin air. It's just kind of like fog. It looks like fog or dry ice is basically what a mist would look like.
If we click on the explicit button for our uploads into iTunes and YouTube, we might be able to play some of the audio from Jeff and I's experience that we had. A near-death experience, basically an experience reported by people who clinically die or come close to actual death and are revived. You hear a lot about that. There's actually some shows on TV that talk about that. They include encounters with spirit guides or their guardian angel. And they basically get to a point where they can come back and they can decide whether or not they're going to come back or not. It also has a lot to do with out-of-body experiences. Orbs. This is a touchy subject with us. We actually have, if you look on our YouTube page, we have one, and I relabeled it the other day.
I noticed that.
It's a question mark with real orb. I wanted to put a little disclaimer out there. We don't know what it is, but
not at all.
It doesn't fit the data for a typical orb. Typical orbs, we can debunk 99.999% of the time as dust, pollen, a bug, something like that. Now, this particular video that we have on our YouTube site, this went on for about 15 minutes, and it seemed to be the same thing. We had investigators go in. They're trying to find the bug. They're trying to find what's going on.
Right.
But it seems to be interacting with our investigators when we were in there. But typically, we don't do orbs.
No.
I mean, that's just the simple point of the matter.
And in the video, it may look like he's interacting, but remember, we have a controlled group. All our paranormal investigators on an investigation have a radio earpiece, so we can talk back and forth, have complete communication. So we're actually telling him what to do, like putting his hand. You'll see him put his hand up and anything. We can see it on the monitors, but we're telling him what to do in real time.
A Ouija board. This is my one piece of advice to people: is basically stay away from them.
Definitely.
There's a lot of things. A lot of people don't believe in this or don't believe in that. I fully believe that, in my personal opinion, that Ouija boards are bad news. I think everybody knows what a Ouija board is, but we'll talk about it in a minute. But a lot of people believe that it can be used to open a portal.
Yes.
It can be used to open a passageway, basically, to allow evil
spirits or entities to come in,
Right.
demons. Poltergeist, we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on in different types of hauntings, but we have paranormal. Everyone knows what paranormal is. It's something that's not normal. Parapsychology, the study of evidence of phenomena that are inexplainable.
by
just
scientific
exactly.
methods.
We're definitely one that is looking for that. But like I said, poltergeist we're going to talk about here in a little bit when we talk about our different types of hauntings. We have the radio voice phenomena, receiving the voices of a deceased human during a regular radio. So if you're just listening to your radio show and all of a sudden it's not scanning or anything like the Frank box would do, you would actually hear this voice come over. You're like, okay.
Reciprocal apparition. Basically, you witness an apparition in front of you, maybe that materialized in front of you, but then it actually interacts with you and you're able to communicate with it. We have, when we talked about Ouija boards and we talk about demons and things like that, we're kind of getting into the supernatural, which is related to the existence outside of the natural world. As opposed to paranormal, the term supernatural often talks about the divine or demonic intervention.
Right. I know we were going to talk about with the Ouija board and opening the portals and everything, but we also have what's something called a vortex. Now, within the portals, some people say they see a vortex in there, and it's an anomaly that appears as a funnel or a rope-like image in photographs. A lot of people say those are bugs, but it's kind of hard to see a bug. You see it once, and then you see it again, but you only see a certain section of that flight path. So, is it? I'm kind of on the fence on this one as well.
A lot of that has to do with the electronic processors of cameras and things like that. But again, it's one of those things that certain instances may or may not be able to be explained by that.
Exactly. And then, of course, you have your white noise. The white noise is just an acoustic or electrical noise. So, say you want to try and have an EVP session or a contact session, if they would, you're going to turn on a little bit of white noise, and it's nothing more than static. That's all it is. And you want to have it to where if you do capture an EVP, you can better drown out the white noise. That way you'll have a true EVP, but I don't think we've ever used the white noise. I know I haven't when I did a EVP session.
No, I find it hard to control the environment on the audio recorders. We have programs out there that can take out those frequencies, that can do those sorts of things, but it makes it real hard to control the environment when you're using that sort of stuff.
Right. So that's basically it for the common paranormal terms out there.
There's many, many, many other terms, but that's just some of the more common things that we kind of utilize in our investigations.
Right. Hauntings out there. There's different types of hauntings that investigators will deal with. Most people that deal in this type of paranormal activity or investigate paranormal activity, they all agree on three basic ones. You have intelligent, residual, and demonic. But there is another one out there, but it's the poltergeist one.
Right.
Is that a true haunting? I really can't say, but everyone will agree on the intelligent, the residual, and the demonic.
Now, with intelligent, basically, it's also known as a conscious haunting. It's probably the most accepted type of haunting, but it's not as common as one might think. This is where basically you're able, the entity is consciously aware of your presence and you're aware of its presence, and there can be some interaction there.
Exactly.
And that's where things like the K2 and that stuff comes in when you're asking questions and you're interacting with it. That's more along the lines of the intelligent haunt.
Right. The entity that they'll try to communicate with you, and they are aware of the people around you. it'll even look at someone and call them or acknowledge their presence. So it'll look at you and kind of like give you a little head nod if it would, or just I don't know, like your entity. I don't know what it did there because I wasn't in there. But like I said, another time for that one. But I know during that investigation we did have some intelligent haunts within that one. It's one of the hot spots here in Burke Burnett that we like going to.
Right. That's our fail-safe whenever we need a weekend to get us over the blues.
Exactly.
We have a residual haunt. Basically, a residual haunt. I kind of feel like this might be more prevalent than an intelligent haunt because there's been lots of times when we go on investigations when we'll hear hammers or we hear bells or we hear music or something like that. But basically, it's if you can imagine everything that's had energy at some point in time, that energy is stored either with an object or in that place and time. And you may actually hear that, say it was a workshop, you may actually hear people working in there, that sort of stuff.
It's the same kind of noise over and over again, kind of like watching a movie loop, just go over and over again. It's like you were saying, it's energy that is imprinted on an object or a place, and depending on what happened, how much energy is stored there, will depend on how long it'll be left there and just continuously going in a constant loop.
There was another location here in town, and again, this is probably another show, but we actually heard that. It used to be a blacksmith shop, and you could actually, we caught on our audio recorders the sounds of someone hammering metal over and over again for like an hour long, on that audio.
Now, I know there's a lot of residual haunts that people talk about, especially around Civil War sites, to where they actually see apparitions of the Civil War soldiers walking through or marching or doing something like that. So that's nothing more than a residual haunt because of all the negative activity that happened there, all the death and stuff. So it's an imprint there, just like we had the one here at Peace River.
Right.
That was a good investigation. We found some stuff. We had some interaction with stuff, but it was nothing more than a residual. It was nothing intelligent.
And then lastly, we have our demonic, also known as an inhuman type of haunting, and not very common. There's only been one time, I think, during our years of doing this when I felt like we may have been crossing into that area, and we referred that over to some experts. But basically, it's demonic, an evil entity, or some sort of evil energy that's coming through, some sort of malevolent force that's taking over a person or a location or an object. A real common example of a demonic haunting is the Annabelle doll.
Yes.
The Warren's Annabelle doll. That's real common. You guys can do a search if you're not familiar that much with paranormal. You can do a search. This doll still sits in a museum nowadays, and it's kept locked up because of everything that's happened. There's actually a movie made about it and some other stuff.
Wasn't that The Conjuring?
The Conjuring. So there's a lot of stuff with that. Again, demonic stuff, if you feel like you have a demonic haunting. There's a lot of things. A lot of times if you have, we've been on an investigation before, and it's one of my favorite ones where Rob, we actually caught on camera his headset and his glasses being knocked off his face. He got scratches in that one, and he got pushed on some stairs. Now, that is not demonic. No. That's more of a...
it didn't like me.
It didn't like him. But that would be an intelligent haunt. That would not be demonic. But if you feel like you have a demonic haunting, again, that you're going to need some experts or something to come in and take care of that, you can contact us, send us an email or something, and we'll see what we can't do to refer you to the correct people to get you some help there.
Right. Now, those are the three common types that, like I said, everyone can agree on. Now, thanks to Hollywood, you have the poltergeists. All right. Now, in Hollywood, the word poltergeist is a household name, all right? But what it actually is coming from the German word meaning noisy ghost. So a poltergeist is centered around a person, usually called an agent. We talked about agent earlier with our terms. Normally, what I've seen this being around is adolescent females around the teenage years. And it's normally... they're the ones that are actually manifesting this, and they don't even know they're doing that. So it can happen several times a day. The person doesn't know that they're actually manifesting the activity like I was talking about. And the thing about this one is it can't be removed. my suggestion would be go to a psychic, not a psychic, but a psychologist, and try and talk through the problems. Find out exactly what's going on. You can only wait it out. You really can't get rid of this. I think the last one is probably the most controversial one out there, and that's the portal haunting.
The portal. And again, that goes with the Ouija board and that sort of stuff. It's the most controversial type. Activity may actually exist as mostly theory and conjecture. Some people say that they may have started gathering evidence, but I haven't seen anything personally that has led me to believe that the portals actually really do exist. Although, I've read stories and I've read some research on some things where maybe it's questionable. And a matter of fact, and without going into too much detail, one of the one case that I was mentioning earlier could have possibly had a backstory that may have led to that. But again, we referred that, and I'm not sure really the outcome of that. But
that's the one in Denver, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And some people say it could be, other visitors from another dimension, maybe aliens, maybe. Again, you're starting to get way out there on that, so
exactly.
We don't really get into that a whole lot,
but that's the first part of the show and everything. I think now it's probably time for a little break.
There you go. Don't forget your headphones when you get back. The more exciting part's coming up. We're going to talk about the EVPs and give you some examples of those.
Are you experiencing or seeing things you cannot explain? If you need help or are looking for answers for something that appears to be paranormal, contact Military Paranormal Investigations, MPI, at contact.us@militaryparanormal.com. Because MPI is a non-profit organization, they offer all research and investigations free of charge. MPI will do any type of research or investigation dealing in the paranormal realm. MPI will travel anywhere in Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Arkansas, Louisiana, and to any military installation in the United States if they are able to. Their military obligations and duty to their country come first, of course. Confidentiality is MPI's #1 priority with a client. They will not publish any information about a case or client without proper consent. There are no experts in this field, only knowledgeable individuals with experience dealing in the different realms of the paranormal. MPI personnel use their individual experiences and training in the different career fields and apply that knowledge towards the MPI research and or investigative techniques. MPI has been investigating since 2008 to help explain possible reasons of any claimed paranormal activity. Being military trained, all of the members of MPI handle the research and investigations with a strong sense of understanding for being professionals. In addition to the MPI undertaking, they will not offer any service or services that deal with ghost busting. This includes cleansings and or exorcisms. Because this field of study is mostly unknown, if any such research project were to arise, Military Paranormal Investigations promise to do their best to find a reputable professional that can help you. Once again, you can contact Military Paranormal Investigations at contact.us@militaryparanormal.com. You can also reach them on their forum at militaryparanormal.com/forum. The truth is to be found.
Welcome back to the Military Paranormal Investigations radio show. I'm Rob once again.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Paul.
One that really hasn't been saying anything out there.
No, not at all.
All right. In the first part of the half of the show, if you're just now joining us, we talked about some common paranormal terms out there, and then a little bit of different types of hauntings that we have, like the intelligent haunt, residual, demonic, and then, like we were talking, the controversial ones. The one that's famous for Hollywood, poltergeists, of course, and then the portal ones. This part of the half of the show, we're going to talk about EVPs, electro voice phenomenons, sounds, that are found on electrical recordings.
That's right. Basically the theory behind it basically is that the entity that's trying to make contact with you can manipulate the electromagnetic frequency, the electromagnetic field, and be able to manipulate audio data or audio medium so that a voice can be left imprinted on that. Back in the day, they started out on cassette tapes and things like that. Now everybody's kind of gone to the digital recorders and that sort of stuff. But basically, it's spirit voices that have been unintentionally recorded while you're just not having normal everyday deals. Now, we use it in investigation. We can actually we have an EVP session, which we talked about in our terms, but we sit down and we try to make communication with the spirits and the energy that's there, and try to figure out why they're there or what their reason for being there is.
Now, a lot of times people don't realize this, but EVP, like we said, stands for Electrical Voice Phenomenon. And we use a digital, people call them digital voice recorders, but if you say DVR, you also talk about a digital video recorder. So what we call them is digital audio recorders, DARs. And most people don't know that everyone pretty much uses the same classification. And that was created by Sarah Estep, early 1980s. She's since passed on to the other side. And now everyone is using her classifications. You have the different classifications like Class A, Class B, Class C, and Class D. Class A, it's a clear and distinct voice or sound that is usually accepted and undisputed because it must be understood by anyone with normal hearing. You don't need to be told or prompted what is said or heard, and it can be used without the use of headphones and understood over a speaker by most people. We have a couple of, I think, two Class A's that we classify as Class A's.
Now, the one thing that I like to tell our clients whenever we're doing an investigation, there's a thing, and it was one of the terms, and I was kind of waiting to this point to bring it up, but there's a term called pareidolia, and a lot of the skeptics actually really break it into the audio pareidolia, which is basically the power of suggestion. You might see it, that's another term is apophenia, which is where it's called matrixing, where you may see, I'll break it back into, you may see an image. You know how when people take on the internet, they've got all their photos, like hundreds of photos in one photo, and it makes a face in the middle. Well, the human eye has a tendency to try to make recognizable shapes out of that. Same thing with listening. Whenever you're listening to certain things, the power of suggestion is a big deal. A lot of skeptics really do that. So what we do is we actually play each of our investigators. We'll listen to it. They'll write down what they have. We have our control group that's set down. They listen to this. We pass it along to another party that's listening to it with we get their opinion, and basically we compile all that evidence. And that's how we break ours out into whether it's a Class A or Class B based off of what it says. So if everybody hears the same thing listening through their regular computer, then we classify that as a Class A. Now I think Rob's got those queued up for you here. We're going to play you which one do you got first there, Rob?
I believe Jeff's famous one that he loves so much.
Now, I'm not going to say where this one was, but basically, he's over in a corner. Mm-hmm. He's this objects that he was around was basically out in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly.
So
now you'll hear something afterwards, and we did enhance this at the end. So you'll hear the EVP probably very faint. Now this is where you'll probably need your headphones. I'll try and get as loud as I can without altering it, but you'll hear the first part of it. And then the other parts, it's where we enhanced it, so you can try and hear it a little better.
And we're just doing that for you guys. If you were listening at home on your audio recorder, we hear this fine. But by the time we get it to you guys through the recordings and everything, that's why we've enhanced it for you.
Why is this empty over here? Are you over here for a reason?
Now, give you a spoiler alert if you want to go back and hear it again before we tell you what we all came to the conclusion of.
Here, I can
you play
cue
it again.
I can cue it right up to where it was. Should be right about here.
So basically, Jeff's in this car, and he's asking why these particular objects are by themselves. So he says, "Is there any reason why you're over here?"
Right.
And then the file says, "No reason at all."
The all part is kind of no reason at all, kind of like that. It's drawn out.
So play it one more time real quick with that
All
little
right.
blurb. You don't have to do the enhanced.
You over here for a reason?
So that's one of our favorite ones that we also have with this same location. The answer doesn't really coincide. Well, I'm not going to say that yet. Go ahead, Rob. Go ahead and play.
Did you have any family?
Play that one more time, and then I'll tell them what we got out of
Have
that.
any family?
Now, everybody agreed that what we heard was coyotes. But if you listen to the audio file, and you really have to listen to it in the background, now we're outside. In the background, out in the distance, is a pack of coyotes running through the fields. And right as he says coyotes, you can hear the yip, yip, yip. So anyway, those what we considered Class A. When we heard them, we knew exactly what it was. And just for the control factor, when we played this back to some of our investigators, we didn't do the "Are you over here for a reason?" We only played the voice.
Right.
And then they came to that conclusion, and that's how we tied it into a Class A. An intelligent haunt as well. It was responding to what Jeff had actually asked the question to.
Exactly.
Now, Class B, basically a voice or sound that's distinct, fairly loud, but the class of the voice is more common and can be heard by most people after being told what to listen for. After you've been told what it is, again, you might get into, some skeptics might tear this up a little bit, but it's really easy for you to actually hear what's being said. But you could tell that there was something there before. Now, really experienced people will be able to pick it up right off the bat.
Yeah, you got to have. I don't say trained, but the person that is actually doing a lot of the listening, you've been doing it for a while. Like we've been doing this for, like I said, since 2008. So we've been actually listening to a lot of audio recordings through our investigations. We're picking up on the key syllables, I guess you would, the different noise when you don't hear anything at all.
Right.
So,
And by doing that, we're able to tell if it's one of our investigators and that sort of stuff too. So it's just the training that we've gone through. We're going to play this one for you. Now, this Class B one, I will tell you, we got this example because we wanted to tie it in. This was by Sarah Estup, and it's at atransc.org is where we found it at. But you'll be able to hear it here.
now,
I think everybody can tell that there's somebody singing.
exactly. It sounds like somebody's singing, and you really can't tell what it is. So we'll play it again for you. Now, like he was saying, the Class B, it's you have to be told what to listen for. So, on her website, it's listed as "I found you there." So listen again. See, now that I gave told
The
you what it
cue.
is, you can pick it out easily. All right, another one that we picked up from our own class. Well, no, I guess the other Class B would be the other one from Sarah as well, right? Let me just go ahead and play it for you. Nope, that one was the Class A.
That was the Class A. Now this one was, if you haven't picked it out there yet, again, it's pretty easy for us to hear it from the direct recording, but it's I was seeing the war, and this was taken, I think, from a battleground or something along those lines.
Yeah, I was seeing the war.
Or I can see the war.
Right. But like I said, they claim that as a Class A, but because we had to tell you what it is, I would lean that more towards a Class B. Now, a Class C one is a faint or whisper-like voice or sound that can be barely heard and is sometimes indecipherable or unintelligible. It's not paranormal. It may have paranormal characteristics such as mechanical sounds that we talked about earlier. Most investigators would apply this objectivity and disregard it like we would. We always say, when in doubt, throw it out. So a lot of Class Cs we would throw out. So here's one from one of our investigators.
These can usually only be heard with headphones and with enhancement as well.
Exactly. So we'll play the clip. You might not be able to understand it, but at the end of the clip, we've also enhanced it. And okay, why is it not playing now? Oh, I know why. Hold on. Let's go. Technical difficulties.
Bear with us.
What's that one called again? Look at this. I had everything else set up except this one. For some reason, this one's not playing now.
Here we go.
Maybe you have things that are unsettled.
You can really hear it with the third enhancement.
Exactly.
But we heard a whisper when we were listening to it with the audio.
Here, I'll let you listen to that whisper again.
That's without the enhancement. That was slowed down a little with enhancement, and that's you can really hear it there. But again, we'd only be guessing at this point if we tried to see.
I mean, I know the investigator Misty. She was asking if they had any unsettled things, and she believed what it said was "I'm dead." So, take a listen again. Like I said. So slow down. It was slowed down for you. Like we said, it's a faint or whisper-like. So we really can't classify that as anything. We don't know.
This is more often what we, a lot of times you watch these TV shows and you see they're running through 7 or 8 EVPs, and but typically when they show it to you, they tell you what it is. You can pick up on it, and it's. But this is more likely what we get. We'll hear. You can tell it might be a woman, or you can tell it might be a man. You can hear that they're saying syllables, but you can't make anything out.
Exactly. It's the like he was saying. You would need headphones to hear that one completely.
Now, the last classification, Class D, which, I personally don't believe it's really even be a classification, but it's where you play the file in reverse. If you remember back in the big, the 70s with all the big rock bands and everything, the people that were getting the satanic messages by playing the album in reverse, that's basically what the Class D is. It's not really a classification. We really don't feel it's there. Again, you're probably getting more into the pareidolia arena where you're making the power of suggestion. You're believing what you want to hear.
Right. I think that's pretty much it of the EVP sessions. I mean, if you have any EVPs out there that you think you may have, you can send them to us and we'll run it through our filters. I don't know if you have the type of equipment that you normally have, but we use Sony SoundForge. I know a lot of people use Odyssey, but Mike can attest to that one. It's a good free one if you're just starting out, but if you need to get the different type of filters that are out there, I would highly recommend a good software, professional software such as Sony SoundForge.
I really enjoy listening to EVPs. It's our most fun part. It's the most boring part for us because we're listening to, when we get through with an investigation, if we've had, say we have 6 DARs, which are our audio recorders set up, and they played for 6 hours, that's 36 hours of audio that we have to go through. So it takes a long time to listen through this stuff.
The other long time would be watching the video as well.
Watching the video, watching all the orbs come across the screen all the time.
All the hours of just sitting in the living room watching videos.
Well, he finally speaks towards the end of the show.
I know.
I thought he had fallen asleep over
Y'all
there.
covered everything. Y'all didn't miss a single word.
Well, normally after our show, we're trying to have 2 different corners. Network Society. Last week we talked about AirPast and doing them. Now, one that we actually are a part of is the Paranormal Society. It's an online directory. Paranormal Societies is the most comprehensive directory of paranormal societies from across the United States. As a matter of fact, all 50 states are currently covered by the 3,639 groups that are on this list. So if you claim that you have any type of paranormal activity or you need help or something like that, go to this website. It's www.paranormalsocieties.com/haunting-assistance.cfm. You can put a request in there, and basically what he does, his name is Bill. I follow him on Twitter as well. But basically what he'll do is he will take your request and send it out to the different groups around what's close to you and try and get you a paranormal investigator out there. He's really helpful. We've actually had 2 cases recommended from him before. So I would highly recommend, if you do have any type of paranormal activity and we're not available, contact Paranormal Societies. They will definitely be able to point you in the right corner.
That's right, Rob. You can also find them on Twitter at Paranormal List.
That's right. Now, another good thing that we like doing is Tech Corner. That's one of my favorite ones because I just love the tech. Working where I work, I get all good. Yeah, I get all the good toys out there. So the piece of equipment I want to talk about is the digital audio recorder because basically we were talking about the EVPs. We use certain digital audio recorders used to capture EVPs, sounds, footsteps, things moving, stuff like that. The kind that we like to use is the Olympus ones, the WS series, to be more precise.
Now those DARs actually have you get done with your investigation, we can plug them up into everybody's laptops and we can download the files on an instant. The sound quality is really good. They have stereo mics. We use that in our softwares. A lot of times we place them where we can actually, when we're covering a room, we can actually tell what side of the room it came from based off of the stereo channel that it's coming through.
Another kind of good digital audio recorder is Sony. Sony has superior sound quality. I love the sound quality on it, which is why we use Sony SoundForge. But the only downside that I found to the Sony one is you have to have a USB cable to hook
and the
it up.
software downloaded to be able to upload the files. So it's a really good audio recorder. For us, sometimes it's just inconvenient because we like to. Again, we talked about 36 hours of audio. We like to be able to blast those audio files out to our investigators when they leave.
Right.
To be able to go ahead and listen to some of that audio.
Now, hopefully later on our listeners will have questions. If you need to contact us with a question or anything, you can email us at contact.us@militaryparanormals.com or radio show at militaryparanormal.com. That's correct.
You guys, if you have any questions, especially say in the tech area or something like that, I know that's the most common question that Rob just finally caught a fly. That's hilarious. They've been bothering us the whole show. But if you have a piece of equipment, that's the most common question that we get is, what should I buy first? What should I buy this? And this, I'll go ahead and answer this question. To me personally, the best thing you can do is get a good quality audio recorder. There's been many times I go on vacation or something, I'm going to go visit a location. I take that audio recorder with me and I'm able to, do things on my own when I go out. It's the most common thing that you're going to use as an audio recorder. That would be where I would start. But if you guys have any questions, need any advice or anything, just make sure you give us a call and send us an email. hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, any of those locations, and we will make sure we try to get you answered as soon as possible in the first show we can.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of show, our next show, I think we're going to have briefly talk about some of the investigations that we went through.
Kind of talk about our favorite ones, what we liked about it, maybe what we didn't like about it, that sort of stuff. Just kind of little entertainment purposes for you guys.
Exactly, yeah. I think that we're going in the right direction. We're actually managed to stay pretty close to our time, and that's our cue. So it's been great. I enjoyed it. Rob, have a great night.